Welcome to M Squared TechCast, a live show offering the latest news and interviews with the people driving business, technology, and politics in Michigan.
Hey, it's Matt Roush.
And Mike Brennan.
And we're back with another segment of the M Squared TechCast. Right now we have with us in our guest chair, Maissan Almaskati, who is Chief Executive Officer of the FinTech Consortium in the United States. And they have a new partnership with TechTown that you want to talk to us about. So welcome, first of all.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So you've opened a physical location in TechTown, Detroit?
Correct, yes.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so our location in TechTown is the second in the United States. The first was in Silicon Valley, only in May of this year. The Detroit location is very much focused on doing three things, focusing on innovation in fintech and blockchain, auto-related fintech, and mortgage tech.
Okay. Well, let's have a definition of fintech, first of all.
Sure.
So it is kind of a shorthand.
Yeah. Okay. So fintech for us it's short for financial technology, but under that we look at all sorts of different things that range from data analytics, artificial intelligence, blockchain, basically anything or any tools that you can use to improve financial services.
Okay.
And then at TechTown, talk a little bit about what you're going to be providing there.
Sure. So all our innovation hubs work in a similar way. We work with our corporate partners. These are financial institutions that come on board as partners of our platform to really work on a number of things. Incubation of new technologies, working with startups to help them improve and develop and test their solutions, and then a range of training and educational initiatives that are related to financial technology.
Okay. Will you have innovative or co-working space or incubator space?
That's correct. So the physical space for us is part of what we offer, but of course that's a very basic part of the proposition.
Okay. And so you're working with Flagstar Bank and Flagstar Mortgage Tech Accelerator. How did that all work out? How did you come together with them?
Sure. So Flagstar Bank is actually our first partner in Detroit, our founding partner in Detroit. And looking at their needs and their strategy, we thought that it would be quite innovative to establish what is the very first mortgage tech accelerator in the United States. So we designed this program with them to target many different aspects of the mortgage financing value chain, everything from the origination phase all the way to underwriting and servicing of mortgages, and invited startups to apply to be part of the very first cohort that is launching on September 12th.
Talk a little bit about your cohort there. Who are the young people, old people, mix of people? Yeah,
so that actually will be announced very shortly. We haven't made that public yet,
okay.
But what I can tell you is that it is a combination of profiles and startups. The one thing that's common amongst them is that they all have a minimum viable product. They've all been through some level of testing and funding. So we're not dealing with the very early stage, but
you're not dealing with just an idea. You're
correct.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Correct. So startups that actually have some level of, let's say, proven solutions.
So they may have angel funding or something along those lines,
or late stage seed funding, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do they have to have a commercialized product already or not?
Not necessarily, but I think they need to have met certain testing hurdles that show that they're a viable product.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So what do they get from this from being in this cohort? What services will they receive, and over how long of a period will they receive it?
Well, the program is I guess customized or made quite bespoke per startup. So this isn't a volumes game for us. We tend to work with cohorts of anywhere from 5 to 10. And then customize each of the programs just for them. So in this case, each startup will receive a mentor, and the mentor will work with them to identify what are their top 5 pressing needs, whether that's further innovation and testing of their solutions, or whether that's more addressing the business setup side of things, and helping them through that process. And at the end of it, they will get to have a validated product that's been tested by the Flagstar system.
And is there funding for the winners, or if there is a winner, or is there funding involved in this at all beyond what
there is the possibility of funding, so we don't promise or guarantee funding, but if the solution is interesting enough and either Flagstar or ourselves want to invest in it, then that is certainly a possibility.
Sure. Can you give us a couple of examples of, without naming these cohorts, just sort of what they're working on, some of the ones that really come to mind?
Sure. So on one side of the mortgage tech spectrum is the customer servicing aspect of it. So we've been working with one startup that is focused on automating the customer service and back office side of things. So when a customer interacts with a financial institution, whether that's to update documents, retrieve documents, or provide any sort of support for their mortgage, they're dealing actually with an automated process. That's not actually a human being on the other end. It's artificial intelligence.
Sure. Well, AI is going to rule the world here
Correct.
at some point, right?
Correct. Yeah. So that's on one end, and then on the other is a whole range of origination type tools that that automate that process too.
You also, I see blockchain. What are you doing in blockchain?
So blockchain for us, we look at it actually quite widely in terms of not only as far as it relates to finance. We certainly think finance is a very important application or area for it. But blockchain, of course, can be applied in many different situations. And we are looking at partners globally that have actually helped us move into that space. So to give you an example, we're involved in projects that are working on moving medical and data records onto the blockchain system, looking at moving vehicle registration onto the blockchain system. So not
necessarily financial, like moving
correct.
Money, but
correct. Yeah. Now that's one part of it, and that's typically people associate blockchain with cryptocurrencies.
You're going to get paid or something, right?
Right. Exactly. But for us, it's a much wider application.
Now, just in case there are any non-technical people watching, could you give me 30 or 45 seconds on what blockchain is?
Sure. So blockchain is really a way of recording data in a sequential manner, what they call distributed ledger technologies, and being able to trace that data all the way back to its origin and ensuring that as that data grows and accumulates in terms of entries, it's all securely linked with
tamper-proof, essentially.
Correct.
Yeah, but you're spreading it out to make it tamper-proof, right? That's essentially what you're doing?
Correct. That's part of it, but that's how sort of the data entries will grow over time anyway.
Okay.
Some people are speculating, I don't know when, but that blockchain may become the world currency. I mean, do you think that's a possibility?
I think it goes back to what I mentioned earlier, is that the applications of blockchain are interesting. I think talking about whether a blockchain-based currency will become the world currency is a little bit far-fetched in our opinion at the moment.
I don't see the nation states giving that up.
Correct, because that question is very closely linked to the question of sovereignty.
Right.
So how much sovereignty are states going to give up? And right now, everybody's fighting it.
Right.
So how long have you been active here in Detroit?
So
I know you just recently had the Detroit FinTech Challenge, right?
Correct. So we've been active for about 12 months, a little over 12 months. We've been supporting different aspects of the Detroit FinTech ecosystem. We supported the Detroit FinTech Challenge. We supported the Detroit Blockchain Pitch Fest. And obviously now with the opening of Detroit FinTech Bay, we're looking to solidify our presence here.
What do you think of the ideas you've seen here?
I think Detroit has a lot of promise. I think for everyone who's been involved in our project, everybody's been pleasantly surprised by the level of, innovation, but also the amount of startups that exist in the broader Michigan area.
Yeah, that would be my next question, too. You started in Silicon Valley, and Detroit was your number 2 spot. That's a ringing endorsement for Detroit, but people outside of the area would scratch their head and go, Detroit?
Really?
You know,
Correct. Yeah, I mean, as you can imagine, we've had those types of reactions from people as well. But for us, as I said at the beginning, there are 3 key themes where Detroit, I think, could excel and could really position itself over the next few years. Auto-related fintech, so everything from buying a car, leasing a car, insuring a car, servicing a car. That in itself is a customer experience that needs to be modernized, that needs to be innovated upon, and it's still to happen. Nobody's done it right yet.
Right, yeah. I was going to say, you even just to lease a car, a simple lease, you're still in there for 2 or 3 hours signing papers.
Correct.
You know? I mean, it's like getting a mortgage 30 years ago.
Absolutely. And now, we're even working with startups out of Silicon Valley that are looking at Detroit for potentially bringing solutions over, testing them out here with the automakers, and that's one way that the industry here can also reinvent itself. So being able to think of what autos used to be and what is the future of autos.
Yeah.
Right. And then the other is the mortgage tech industry. So for us, working with Flagstar, being the 3rd or 4th largest originator of mortgage loans in the country, is very important. And you also have others in Michigan like Quicken and Rocket Loans, and so being in Detroit makes a lot of sense from that point of view.
So I guess we're cars, pizza, and mortgage. Those are a big 3. So
That's right. And I'd add blockchain to that. So
So working with Flagstar, does that preclude you from, say, working with a Rocket or somebody else like that?
We're not exclusive with anybody.
Okay.
The real question is, do people want to partner? So for us, our model is entirely collaborative. We have international locations, similar models, other hubs, where we have as many as 30 and 40 partners in those locations.
Yeah.
And they're all competitors of each other. But I think the perspective that's taken in those situations is that there are certain common pain points, common themes that banks, financial institutions all suffer from.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of all trying to address them individually, why not collaborate?
Yeah. Sounds like automotive industry action group for car makers.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're a global organization, right? I mean, you're in Bahrain, you're other places. Talk about that a little bit.
Correct. So the group actually established its very first fintech hub in Singapore in Southeast Asia, opened the second in Bahrain. So both Bahrain and Singapore are very global banking centers, and actually where a lot of innovation is taking place at the moment. So Detroit and Silicon Valley are our first two hubs in the U.S.
Huh. Okay, we got about 2 minutes left. So TechTown, of all the partners you could have partnered with in Detroit, why TechTown?
I think if you look at our presence in other parts of the world, we typically like to work with important stakeholders in any fintech ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
In most of these places, it's either the financial regulator or the government or a development agency of sorts. So for us, working with TechTown, that's already established a innovation ecosystem that already works with a lot of startups around the not necessarily fintech, but the tech space.
Sure,
made a lot of sense. It helps us accelerate that lead time to getting up and running in Detroit.
Okay, do you have your first resident to be joining you, the Detroit Blockchain Center?
Correct. Correct.
So talk about them just a bit.
Sure. So the Detroit Blockchain Center has been set up as a nonprofit in Detroit and actually works towards promoting a blockchain ecosystem and industry in Detroit. And so for us, given all our interest and, as I mentioned, the different applications of blockchain that we identify, it made a lot of sense to partner with them and have them as a strategic resident for us.
Mm-hmm.
Got about a minute left, so why don't we one more time talk about when is this cohort list going to be released? Soon?
It will be probably this week.
This week?
Yeah.
Okay. And what's the website?
It's DetroitFinTechBay.com.
Okay. And you're going to open your doors in a few weeks?
On
Where
September
will
12th.
you be?
September 12th, third floor of TechTown.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks very much. Maissan Almaskati, Chief Executive Officer of the FinTech Consortium in the United States, talking about the FinTech partnership with TechTown and the new FinTech location. Thanks for being with us
Great.
today.
Thank you for having me.
Additional four-year students love Lawrence Technological University's thriving campus life, but LTU has always met non-traditional students' needs too. Lawrence Tech offers over 100 degree and certificate programs that can get adult students started or back on track. And most of our classes are conveniently offered evenings at our beautiful Southfield campus or online, so you can balance your social, family, and work life even while you power up your career. Lawrence Tech, where Blue Devils dare.